Hi, so welcome back to the fourth video. So in this one here, we've done with all the technical drawings, and now we're going to aim to achieve these ones here. So I have actually just done the one. I've done three screenshots or three downloads, I should say, of the same model, and you can see I've rotated it around for every screenshot, for every download, just so that they're slightly different. And then I've done these ones down here, and they're quite close up. This is not like we're looking at it up in the trees. It might be as though we're walking across a platform into it, but it also just shows the details and the materials close up. I decided that probably for me personally, I don't feel like this one here is really needed. So I'm really just going to work on 1, 2, 3 rotations of looking underneath, and then 2 of looking sort of inside close up. So if we go back to SketchUp where we left off here. Now to get things back in order easily, I would just undo. So Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, 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 or Command Z, whatever is your function, to get it all back in place. And that is where we left off. So now we need to turn back on the materials. So we're going to turn the materials back on. So by now you might remember or might be able to figure out how that is. So we've just come back to the styles, and we had it on the third option here, hidden line. So now we'll come down to the second row, shaded with textures. So let's click on that one, and all of your materials and textures should reappear. There we go. Now that will happen because we've also got a section cut there. So just go to the glasses and hide that section cut. There we go. So what we want to do is, and remembering that mine doesn't have everything fully shaded in or colored in, but you will have on yours. And this is essentially what happens if you don't. Let's go down to shadows and turn those on. Right, and then let's remove the black lines. So when I say the black lines, I mean these things. They are a SketchUp thing. The purpose of the black lines in SketchUp is so that it helps us model and it's really crystal clear what we're doing. But in real life, nothing has black lines around it. We just want to rely on our shadows to do the work. So if we go to styles and come up to edit, you might remember us turning them on and off. Here, we'll turn the edges off. Now, that will only look effective if you have got everything with materials on and if you have got shadows turned on. And we'll go and alter those shadows now to try and make perhaps areas of your model less dark or just make the lighting more effective. So let's go done. And let's go down to our shadows. And let's just play around. So if you've got something that looks like this and you're like, oh, that just looks terrible, it's just moving the time of day on your shadow timeline and even the time of year. So summer or winter, where the sun is higher or lower in the sky. So that looks really good. Everything's nice and bright. You kind of see how ineffective it is if you just have white and you have no shadows on. And as we roll around, we see more light being cast. That's the direction of our sun. Right, so that looks good. Now, the second thing is if you have shadows that are directly underneath, like not like mine, but directly underneath, it's because your whole design is on the ground and you want to lift it up because we want to make it feel like we're looking underneath in the trees. So I'm just going to kind of reset mine back down on the ground, hit the up arrow key to do that, and yours might look like... Yours might look more like that, or maybe worse. Maybe parts of yours look like that, which means you can see the shadows in the middle of my design because I'm below the ground. So now I really want you to just group the whole of your design together and use the up arrow key and lift it up, lift the whole thing up like that. So the shadow is really being cast on the ground. And then when we orbit around, we can see just how much so. Okay, that's good. So now we want to kind of get underneath this and get a view like we're looking up at it. So I'm just going to zoom right in, forget about the shadow at the moment, and orbit and get right underneath. The second thing I'm wondering is, am I in perspective? So let's just go to scenes and just make sure, just click on it and make sure that you really are. So there we go. I wasn't in perspective. I was in 2D, and I thought so because it just looked a bit squashed or looked a bit weird. There we go. That's perspective. So what we want to do is ideally want views like this. Now, at least the shadows cast on your design. So if I'm so far above the ground that I can't see the shadows anymore, that's fine. But we want 3 views like this. Right, so we're looking right up at our piece of architecture. So that's a really nice view. It's nice and big. And we will scale these down and spread them around a bit later on. You can see just how far underneath you can see. So you choose. Are these really high in the trees? The higher they are in the trees, the less of them we'll see. So for that reason, I've actually just decided to put it like that. So they're not too high, but maybe something like that. Right there, download PNG. You know the drill after that is transparent backgrounds. Once you've done that, just in the same view here, just actually put the orbit tool on the design, not off the design here. That is helpful. And just roll it around and get another view. And then up here, download PNG. And then a third one, you might do all the way from the back. Try to keep that there the same. So just roll your design around. And at any time you see those axes or any other information, go to the glasses and make sure you're turning those elements off, turning off guides so they don't interfere, and save a third one. So that's really it for these 3 views here. And then just for these 2 here, some of you may have figured out, it's really just orbiting back down in this view and showing a really nice close up of it. Of course, you can't see my bench very well, so I might just chuck some material on it. There we go. And again, if you think the shadows are not quite effective, just go down and you change the shadows, change the time of year. I just want them cast on my setting, maybe look a bit nicer. Oh, that's quite nice. That looks really nice on my setting. So just sort of make these judgments as you go and do a nice sort of perspective close-up view so that on our post-it in the bottom, we can really fill it with people like that. And I'd do a couple of them. It's always better to have too many views exported than too few views. So do that, and then that's really it. Shadows, if you do want shadows, I think my issue in this particular instance was I was too high up above the ground compared to what I was in my initial poster. Actually, you can kind of see them there because they were a lot lower. So if you want to have those shadows, I'm going to rotate it. If you want to have those shadows, just drop it down, but not so far down that it's on the ground. And then see if when you roll underneath, if you can still get all of that information plus the shadow on the page. I think that's what mine initially looked like. If I roll too far, I'm actually underneath the SketchUp platform. That's why I can't see it. Like I'm underneath the ground at this point on. So that's good. And initially I used the SketchUp lady. I actually put her underneath that space to get the height right. But I think just sort of guessing it and eyeballing it is fine. If someone's standing up in here, can they stand up down here? And if the answer is yes, I think you'll be all right. So there we go. That's all the views cut. And that's the end of getting everything from SketchUp. In the next series, it'll be video 1 for Photoshop. I'll show you how to get started in Photoshop, just basically how to open up the page for the poster size we want, and a little bit about the settings within Photoshop. And then I'll follow on again in some small videos about how to manipulate and transform all of our views to make a really nice poster.